Well, if you join me from part one, you know that the anime, I have a lot of issues and, some praise here and there, but there's some good amount of issues that it seems like the manga should take care of it, right? It's the impression I have. It's the impression I got from the community who come from the manga and just want to see the anime can adapt perfectly or just greatly, whatever they wanted to see. And sometimes it seems like, oh, the anime sucks, but the manga is even just so much better in many ways. Like it was a great manga or something like that. Some come off that way. Some really actually say like they both kind of equally, the same thing, slightly above average, whatever. Depends on the opinions. It's all opinion. So I was thinking myself, if I read a manga, maybe my opinion would be different for the series wise, rather than just the anime adaptation. I came in to expect something like that, especially the way how people made it out to be. Like I said, it probably has more reason to their statement, but who knows? All I know is I just started to read a manga around the time after I finish up all the way to episode 11, and then I catch up quickly and finish the final chapter before the final episode even air. So I was wondering myself, did the manga ever did anything better? Did it make a huge improvement? Is it an improvement that the people who is a fan of the series needed to see in order to really like the series? Well, to my knowledge, to my opinion, it is better than an anime in some form of way, but it's not improvement, nor does it fix any of my opinion. Here's the thing. The manga does expand more in depth in terms of the mystery of the criminal, who's the serial killer. The more evidence they try to put out, the more link that Kenya actually put out with this old murder case that supposedly connects to this whole thing. Is they have more depth to it. Even the characters, they actually try to put more depth to them and try to put more promises, which, ironically, actually makes it worse for me more so than the anime did, because it felt like there shows a lot of promises. It showed a lot of things that could have been like actually put more depth to these characters. Could actually put out more of something that it will be memorable out of these characters. Where rather than having them just being a side character, sidekick wise, as to not really do anything and just be there just to communicate with some like info here and there, especially with Kenya. Which is funny because it showed promises that, ever since he got himself involved with the serial killer mystery with Satoru, it almost seems like he's going to be a big help. Not just the help what he did with Kaya, with the whole situation with Kaya. I'm talking about like a big help, like a lot of things, especially in the present time. The present time, they almost actually felt like they was going to give him a lot of more spotlight. However, the only thing he has done is give you a lot of information on the whole between the coma days and all that and the days where the serial killer has been lurking, whatever. It just didn't really feel like he has more relevant than just that. Even the ending is just funny how he's like, so can you repeat what happened again, Kenya? Oh sure, this serial killer Yasuo, he was guilty, he's in the death row, blah 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 blah. He's like that. I was like, why he has to be that kind of way? And it's sad because there was one chapter where he has a moment of monologue where he's vowed to find a serial killer, and it seems like he's gonna get himself involved heavily. He seems like he's gonna be the one to solve the mystery and everything. But Satoru ends up getting the memory back, and he pretty much solved the problem for him, or something like that. It just didn't really amount to anything. It felt like it was a lot of waste of time, and which brings me to this. The whole coma arc, so-called they say, this was rushed heavily in the anime. And I think, in a strange way, I feel like the director made a choice, made a right choice to skip that. Or more like, I wish he did it better, but he did a right choice. Or it's more of a choice of like, who cares? Because honestly speaking, the whole coma arc was rather disappointingly slow and dragged. It's actually pretty boring. It's really dragged out. There's way too many wordings, and many of them could just be dealt with like 5 sentences and that'll be it. But instead, it's so many of them are like consistent like over 30 sentences, an entire essay just to say I'm crazy or just to say this and that. Especially from the serial killer Yashiro himself. It just seems like it takes a lot of point. And not to mention with the whole Satoru trying to remember things, he literally recapped the entire storyline only to get to the part he says, I can't remember. It's like, okay, so that's total drag. The funny part about that whole thing is that I actually saw the reviews coming from Japan. Even they thought this volume, this arc, was just a total drag. It just slow paced the story, and it just didn't feel very thrilling. In fact, that's what's the downfall of the series itself. The thrill was absent completely. Once the whole, it definitely completely disappeared once Yashio was confirmed to be the murderer, to be the serial killer. But it disappeared to me after Kaya was solved. The whole thing Kaya was already dealt with. And it felt like there was nothing to be excited. It's nothing to be carry about. I mean, a lot of people like to say after episode 4, the series goes downhill. There's some there is some point to that, yeah, but I feel like it still carry on when we got back to the present around 7 and 8. Though it felt like a lot of things just didn't carry out from the potential that episode 1 through 4 shows, especially with the whole concept of the time travel and the concept of having a 29-year-old mind in an 11-year-old body, or 10-year at the time body. So it could have taken a lot of advantage, a lot of different premise, but it never really did. It never really carried on. But like going back with the whole coma arc, it felt like it slows down the pace. It's a lot, and the worst part is that these chapters were like over 40 pages. And none of them really give you that many information or give you that thrill, giving you that a lot of information. Not even the atmosphere. The atmosphere was lacking as well. It just seems like everything just went on a hold and the author doesn't even know what to do now. I wasn't feeling anything about it. And I feel like the way he gets his memory back, while it's more understandable, I guess, compared to anime, it just still takes way too long, and it feels like it didn't amount too much of it, except for like the idea of like not trying to have her dragged in, which I had to go with Artie. The funny part about Artie is that I was under the impression that she did a lot of things in this manga version. Now, they did skip a chapter where she was, I guess she had one moment of spotlight, but doesn't really say much. But still, the point is when she's supposed to be the one to hit this photographer back in the hospital. If you remember, it ended up being Yashio in the anime, which is, I didn't think it was weird, but a lot of people told me it was weird because it was Artie. And I was like, oh, really? It's changed the plot, changed the style. Okay, I guess I have to read the manga for sure. But even so, I'm thinking like she's going to do something. She's going to interact more. We get more interaction with Satoru. It would be nice. Instead, she becomes an object and tool, a plot device, as you could say. It was very disappointing to even find that out. So I'm thinking to myself, what exactly am I supposed to be so thrilled about her meeting back Satoru in the ending of the series? I don't feel anything about it. And people probably just feel it because for the sake of just pairing. I'm not easy like that. You gotta have some chemistry. You gotta have some more interaction, more development. So either both versions just doesn't really convince me at all. In fact, the manga version only tells me she's just been shoehorned into this series. She's been forced to be upon this thing. It just doesn't feel like it's really that relevant. It feels like one of those things like, I just need you because you're the only present person that Satoru will know from the present time. Which it makes some sense, but it could have done differently, and it could have been more amusing, and the interaction between each other has not been around since that time where he, before the last reset he ever gone through. So it just feels rather lackluster, and I feel like I never really got the real reason to care about this pairing to begin with. If if they even got it together or whatever, but that's all up to you. Point is, I just never really felt anything about it, and I feel like people are just too easy with that. I guess everybody was just like, whatever works, and I'll be happy. It's like, you need a better reason, you need a stronger reason than that. But I'm not gonna dwell on this too much. But all I'm saying is that I felt disappointed to actually think it's gonna be more than that. The ending is largely the same. It took place at the bridge instead. Yashio and Satoru confront each other. This one is still a bit hokey, I guess. The anime version is still great. It's still over the top. Just the fact how it's done. Just the fact it felt like one of those like overly done yaoi yaoi sense. Some people really say they really confirm it as a yaoi scene and something like that. I don't know about legitimately believe that, but they really overtoned that one. But regardless, the manga version is pretty much the exact same. It's similar, except for it's not about you need me because you need me as much as you just need me or something like that. And yeah, it's the whole Yashio goes like, you're right, I need you, I can't survive without you, whatever like that. In the manga, it's just pretty much him telling his side story, telling him like, yes, I rewind myself like 3 times, I visit that place 2 times, I'm in 2005, 4, I forgot what year, and Yashio's just like, I'm gonna burn the bridge. And then I guess another shonen Isk is where he's like, I'm gonna fight you down, and why? By determination and willpower or something like that. Yeah, it's nothing wrong with just having shonen stuff, but it's just kind of funny that I keep thinking this is shonen, yet I'm thinking Attack on Titan is seinen, and it's not. It's like, how kind of ass backward I'm having these days. But it's the same, largely the same thing. Like I said, I feel rather disappointing about these characters. It has promises to show. It shows promises that they could have done more to themselves, and it could have been like actually more of a depth to them. Instead it relies on interaction, which is fine, but you need to have something to care about as individually. Like I said, the only thing I got out of is 3 interactions, three of them that actually stands out is with Kaio, Satoru with Sachiko, his mother, and Satoru and Kenya. But that's really about it. And when they're by themselves, some characters, when they're by themselves, they don't really do much, and it just seems like it falls flat on that part. Also, it is worth mentioning Satoru himself. He's a mix, because I feel like in the beginning, I know what his intention to do as to be a hero, and then at one time it sounded like he wanted to do this just for the sake of to save his mother, and then the other time it feels like he's trying to develop about friendship, but it never went through, and then it just skipped to phase 5, which is, friendship is great. Rather than going to the stepping stones of understanding the friendship and see what they can do, and more develop as a kid, which is funny because in the manga version, it actually show a lot of more promises of what could be done, but it just skips ahead and go all the way to the comatose arc. It just feels like I missed an arc or so. I feel like everything could have been done, especially with Kaio. She actually made a return in the manga one last time, and it was nice of her to actually go back to that Christmas tree, so to say, but it feels like they was supposed to go one more time, especially when she went back after Satoru went missing, which is only indicates maybe they was going to show up one more time to indicate something. It felt like the Christmas tree meant a lot, and it meant for that second time they visit, but it felt like it might be the third time, especially since the way they portray it is like a symbol of their highlighted moment, a symbol of their strong bonds. Again, I'm not saying they have to be lovers, but it just seems like they really put out a lot of work into that relationship, and it felt like it also showed promise that she came back only to be this time to be the helper for him. but that just diminish for the coma arc with her just saying like, if I feel regret that I couldn't do help, and then only Satoru to say, nah, it's cool, it's just me to do the work, and then that's all bygone. It's like, why why you let Satoru do all the work? I'm not talking about the characters within. I'm talking about the writer. The writer just made Satoru do everything, and it just seems a little bit, it seems a bit just too much. It just seems very Messiah-ish without really being sticking out to you, to shoving down your throat. In a way, it still does, but it just seems like it could have benefit for having a different ways of being like a hero, and it never really dwells the idea of heroes could always have backups, could always be helped by others, and not just mentally but physically as well. It just never get to that moment, which is a pretty disappointing to really say. Manga is really not that much difference. It expands more, but the downside is when you get to the coma arc, or rather just the 1/4 of the last 1/4 of the series, it just starts to lose all the edge it has. It lost its luster, it lost its thrill, it gets boring, it gets pretty repetitive at times, and it drags out up to the chapter 42 where they start to do the plan in order to take down Yashiro. But after that, I already explained in the anime version, it's still anticlimactic, and it's still rather kind of quick, and the ending is still mediocre as it is. I really got not much to say with that, but I guess I had to address the elephant in the room, because, well, that's one thing that these people really care about is pairing. Pairing is always the main course for every series, no matter what series. If it doesn't have romance, it doesn't mean because it won't. It's always going to have something, and these fans said it loudly. I mean, that they really was anticipated a pairing for this series, especially this series is very hyped. So imagine a very hyped series, a very overrated series, getting a lot of attention, so that means the pairings is going to be overblown. You think Naruto is bad? Well, actually still is, but point is, this is no exception. So you're bound to get some pairing talk, and here and there is the key to everybody's attention. It is a key to everybody's interest. So pairing wise, let me just say this. I don't have much problem with the pairing, but it's actually a different problem I have why it happened. But to begin with, this whole entire series, whether it is anime or manga, is very clear that they really, really, really push Satoru and Kaio. And I know, let's save the age talk, I'll get to that soon. They really push that. And if you think anime was bad, the manga is still bad. Actually, it could be worse. Because as I told you, there is a moment that she finally comes back after being settled with her grandmother. I mean, she still live with her grandmother, but she went back to the school. And the way how it was toned, the way how it was set up, the fact that, it felt like Kaio was going to do more. And before she does more, she got all shy, and then she just tell her, he's her hero. And Satoru just went like, oh my god, like he pretty much is like, hey, you're still 29, get a grip, And then Kaio just throw off snowballs like, hey, say something, like, oh, I'm sorry. It's like, it's funny stuff, but point is, it tells you there was like, they were really pushing this. Again, the Christmas tree, it feels like a symbol. It could be just a strong bond, but I feel like they should have done more to it. And it felt like it's so focused, like I'm watching, like I'm reading something like Silent Voice or something like that. It felt like that. It felt like I'm reading something that is so gripping and it's so very charming and engaging with this whole relationship together. It doesn't need to be love, but it sure felt like it could have been. And I know with the age situation, but I'm really going to get to that very soon. And then this happened. This whole coma arc. this whole thing that he goes to sleep and then he wakes up 15 years later for everybody to pretty much change, pretty much got their own life settled. And Kaio got her life settled with, of all people, Hiromi, that boy that looks like a girl. They got married and they even have a kid. Now, from what I heard, when the manga happened, everybody got so pissed off. Anime, same thing, but you could tell a lot of people are trying to restrain themselves of not to get pissed off because it's the fact it's the series they love so much or they hype so much. They don't want to betray that hype, so they don't want to talk about the NTR. Yeah, I just found out what the hell NTR just from this series. I'm not much of a internet goer when it comes to like knowing the words. Maybe I would know like other words, but not from anime sense of use of slang. But I found out the NTR this way, and when I saw this, and then the way how the anime or the manga portrayed it, the way how they brushed aside, it just felt like what was the entire point of the entire relationship. Now, again, you go with the manga. Look, like I said, I'm not trying to say this. I'm gonna get this fact straight right now. The pairing does not hurt the anime, the manga. It does not hurt it. It does not give me a reason to deduct a point, but there is a reason to deduct it because I can't really blame these people, and I can't even blame them at all. It's one time I would be like, oh, it's okay, it's not a romance or stuff like that. Things happen, but in a way, I really can't blame them because it's about the writing. It is your work, it's your writing, and when it comes to writing, sometimes you could either go a little bit superficial, but a very understandable reason, or you could try to act like you're trying to be edgy and being different, but it only falls flat and only makes it look like a very, very bad writing. And I can't say it's a real bad writing, but I gotta say it is one of the stupidest things that I have seen because it was like no point to this entire experience. And a lot of people like the series just based on the relationship. There's a lot of people really like the relationship between Kaio and Satoru, and I can't really fault them that they took the bait and then you just got this random pairing that nobody understand. I can't even understand. There was no point of it. This makes it worse when you look at the anime advertisement. I just saw the opening CD, the opening soundtrack. It has a pairing sense. It's like, wow, how fucked up can you do this? I'm sorry to use this curse. I'm sorry to swear, but anyway, it's just crazy how you do that. And then I read the manga. I told you, I Bing read. Is that a word? I read the manga. I went straight up, read it from chapter 1 in under 3 days. I still remember every memory. Every volume has a cover. Every volume has a color chapter of Kaio and Satoru holding hands, doing or whatever, the nice bonding. It just seems like, what was the whole point of that? It's like the series doesn't know what it wants to portray. If it's not, I know going in is not a romance anime, manga, whatever, but the way how they portray it sure really makes it really hard to understand what it wants us to be. Which pretty much reinforced my argument about what the whole unevenness of this series brings out. Like I said, one want to be mystery, one want to be thriller. It's pretty much a good amount of thriller, even though it lost that by the 1/4 of the end of the series. But yeah, whatever. And it seems like it's trying to be romantic. And then the mangaka probably thought, oh wait, I'm not doing that. Let me just erase all that. And really, just having her being married and being, like settled off with this guy, it just seems like it's just an excuse to erase Kaya from the main picture. She was the main character. She still is, I believe. But once she shows up, once she shows up, just to prove a point that like, hey, look, I have a good life. Thank you. And that was it. Everything about her is erased. Everything we thought about is gone. It felt like everything was a moot point. It felt like everything that we all saw the tease, whether it's from the anime themselves, the manga themselves, whether it was within these two characters, within the outside characters, all doesn't mean shit. It never meant anything. It felt like, what was the whole point? I literally don't care anything else after that, because maybe if Adi actually did something, which she didn't, so if she didn't do anything, what was the whole point? It was like no point. In fact, that's the one makes it more problem with the ending. With her showing up at the random moment, it felt like it's just a consolation prize with anime or manga, more so with anime. But either way, again, it felt like a consolation prize. Like he has to give a bone just to say, "Oh look, I got a parent confirmation." You happy? So it just doesn't feel so satisfying with that, because I don't even know the development. Yes, it's not really confirmation of pairing, but you get the idea they're going to try to set it off as, just start off friend and then, grow into bonding, loving, which is funny because, a lot of people keep saying this is realistic route. What's realistic route? Because, you have Kaio didn't wait for 15 years for him to wake up from the comatose. It's funny because while that is a good argument, the problem is why you made it sound like it's the only argument. Why is it the only choice? You're telling me that nobody can actually wait 15 years for the guy? You're telling me that she has to marry? Like, you're trying to tell me in an indirect sexist way that she gotta get married in order to prove, hey, I'm happy? She could have a good life. She could have a great job, great career, whatever. She could be engaged or something. I don't know, anything. But instead, it's just straight to the point, to that moment. And I don't even think she has any job, whatever career is just there. And just being a small farewell package from the author himself. Just saying like, hey, look, she has a good life. Now beat it. So that was about it. It felt like realistic doesn't mean good writing. In fact, if I would have believed that's realistic, if they were to say like somebody from there would have said like she waited for you, but she just gave up, so she just settled outside. But she's still happy. I would have been okay, kinda, because it still kind of ruined the writing. But the point is, nobody really say that. You only put your assumption. The only thing we know is that she has a life, and really, that's it. That's really it. But you're kind of trying to put too many things that the author didn't even write it himself. So stop trying to make it so clever, great writing, when the author doesn't even exploit that. Because if you keep assuming, you're only overjudging the series itself. You're overpraising it without really backing up the real cause and effect. So I'm not buying this whole thing. And again, now let me get to this whole age part. Yes, that's an excuse. That's an understandable excuse. And really, and trust me, when I say this, when Satoru get that funny feeling with Kaio in at age 10 and sometimes 11, it is weird because Satoru is 29 or 28 in the manga for whatever reason, but he is 29. Let's just go with that. He is 29, and he's like, always struggling. Like, hey, settle down. You're 29 years old and stuff like that. I know the people try to argue it's pedophilia. Now, here's the funny part. The funny thing is, in the manga, there was after Kyle was settled, there was a chapter where why he can't go back. He still didn't find the problem. He still didn't find the answer, which is funny. It still relates to the plot hole, but I rest my case in the last one. And he couldn't find out how to go back in time. But instead, he established that, you know what? I had to stay in this time, and I'm going to make the best out of it. And I'm going to help everybody I need to help. And for that moment on, I'm just going to relive it again. Which is funny because he really did that. He really did that. He came back from a coma. He came back from being comatose for 15 years, right? 15 years, right? So then he just come back, and then you see Kyle. Everybody's already in there over 20 years old. So begs the question: why can't you not just have a running joke into a punchline or into a new something that a secret develop, something that how like other series would do. You could always make a funny plot. You could always make something funny into something serious. So it's rather funny how they actually grow up the same age. They actually grow up in the same timeline, and he ends up with Adi. Let's say he does end up with Adi. He ends up with Adi, who's still a high schooler. And I know age 16, I guess, is appropriate to hang out with older men, whatever the age they may be. In Japan, at least. I don't know. I could be wrong. It just feels ironic because everybody always use that excuse bait about the pedophilia thing about, he's 29, she's 10. What's wrong with you guys? That's understandable, but here's the thing. If he's going to grow up, why not just have that running joke last so much in the entire 1988 setting, and then when they grow up around 2003 or 4 around there, why not just have that into a new thing? And I know it sounds like a romance thing, but it does help the writing because it just made it seem like everything after him waking up, after seeing the characters growing up, everything feels like pointless. And that doesn't only include Kyle. It includes everybody. Kenya and Kenya, and so on. Everybody became pointless. It felt like everything is just in the background. Regardless if Satoru keeps saying, they're my friends, they help me out, stuff like that. It didn't have that many time in the flashback. It didn't have that many time in 1988 setting, which is funny because it felt like there was lot of plans that could have been going, but then the writer, by the way, the mangaka is K Sambi. It felt like he just decided, I'm going to end this by having Yashiro being the villain, being the killer, reveal to himself, try to kill him, go skip a time skip and stuff like that. So if that was the case, that would have been a nice way to have a running joke into something serious. It would have been funny still by having wait a minute, I can't say I'm 29 years old. She's actually over 20. Should that be okay now? Why don't you even think of this? What the hell is wrong with you, Satoru? Stop thinking this way. It would have been amusing, funny, and actually pretty adorable. It would have been adorable. And I know I'm sounding like I'm writing a fanfic, and trust me, I understand what I'm going with. But all I'm saying is there could have been a different approach that could have actually saved the writing, that could have actually have more purpose. And by the way, after being coma, I just wish it didn't went straight to the main plot. The whole finish the fight with the serial killer Yashiro. I feel like it should benefit more using the character that came from the flashback to showcase what they can do and stuff like that. I feel like Kenya should have done a one small arc on himself, trying to get to the killer, and maybe he would either get close to getting killed and at the same time getting close to get the killer. But it would benefit a lot for Satoru. But instead, everything is all lies on Satoru again. So it almost feels like it's a moot point as always. So by this, it just feels like I can understand why the parent fans for this series is really frustrated with that moment. And, of course, they try to benefit themselves by, giving them a pleaser to look at by saying Ari, sorry. But I always feel like she just shoehorned there, everywhere. I feel like she's just a plot convenience, a plot device at times. Like she ends up being the same time. Like I said, I did enjoy her when she was in episode 5, but it just felt like she was very irrelevant. Hell, even the director didn't include a lot of scene with her because it felt like it's no point. If you ask me, the director only includes something relevant or something good about the series, and everything else is just whatever because they're not really that good. The coma thing was boring, in my opinion. Is just dragged out. It just didn't really amount too much into the last 4 chapter, or really 3 chapter. The last 3 chapter, I didn't really feel engaged. I didn't feel like anything was getting gripping, exciting, compelling. Just appalling instead. I wanted to like this series. I really do. I like the premise and everything, but it just takes away with all these kind of problems. And now, because of what I'm saying it seems like I'm going to be against the world. I know this series is going to give me that's the series. I know these videos are going to give me so much pandering because they think this series is so phenomenal. It's a 10 out of 10 series. Everybody has their opinion. I get that. But my opinion says I find this to be heavily disappointing. This series has too many potential, but a lot of flaws. Some parts that really overlook the flaws from a lot of people that probably didn't really really didn't take notice because it's just trying to look. I think it goes like this. It is a psychological thriller, though it has a different genre as well. But let's just focus on the psychological thriller. It has that. It does its job, and it does a good job out of it. Especially the first 4 episodes. Later on, it gets a little different and not a good sense, and it just feels like it gets a little bit off peeling. Though when it comes to focusing on Kyle, everything like that with her, it gets good again. It gets really compelling. But after that, there was like, what now? And the what now just really amount to nothing. It amount to a lot of hokey, a lot of randomness, a lot of weak plot elements that just keep on coming. Mainly with the whole serial killer. We know the motive. The motive didn't get explained too much. I mean, in the anime, it didn't get explained too much. It pretty much give you the jot down notes. But the manga, they do expand it, but it's more of a what does he do with it, more so than like where he really grows from it. Like what changed him? They didn't. I mean, it shows what changed him, but it's nothing too much that you're missing out. It's nothing says that. There's nothing tells you that really makes you think, holy crap, this guy is very 3-dimensional, very complex. It's nothing like that at all. It's just. It is what it is, and it's really still disappointing. I mean, sure, it gives you more graphic to behold, like, oh, he killed his brother the way how it's assumed. Oh, he killed his soon-to-be wife. Either way, it just feels like everything just never it never left a great impression for me. I can't say it's a bad series. It's not a bad series. It's not crap. It's not bad series. It's not terrible, god awful, but it's not good. Or maybe, you know what? I'll be generous. I could say it could be good, but me, I won't say. But I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think it's good. It can't. It could be good to a lot of people. A lot of people actually really like this series for whatever reason, but I respect their opinion. But you do have to know that there are people that don't like this series. And I can't say I don't like it, but I can't say I like it either. I just feel indifferent. I just feel like the series is just slightly above average. Fair, okay, fine, I don't know. Whatever you want to take it. And bottom line is this. I was hoping for something that I really like. Something that I could say this is a series that will bring me back to anime completely, even though I am back with anime completely, but it is something you wish you could kind of say in a jokey way, anime is safe or something like that. But this series, it did not work for me. It has a lot of good traits, but the bad traits is also really hard to disregard, and it's something that really makes it hard to even ignore, even to let it bygone in order to make this series a 9, a 10 out of 10 or whatever. But really, it's all up to your excitement. It is an enjoyable ride. I'll give it that. It's an enjoyable ride thanks to being a thriller, which I think that's the reason why a lot of people really like this series, because it's an enjoyable ride. It's a thriller series that, when it comes to thrills, people like that stuff. That's something that you will always hear box office hit after hit because it's thrilling, it's exciting, it's something that would be like, ooh, wow, like that. But for me, even if it's thrilling, I feel like it did lose the elements later on as well, so it kind of makes a contradicting point. But regardless, it does have that thrilling moments. It has some compelling premise. It has an interesting aspect to its settings, but it just feels like everything else, it went all average, and pretty sure you can find other series that's actually done much better. So that's really it for this series. I seriously wish this series could have been one of my favorites of this year. It only tells me try harder next time. So that's it for my review on the series. Yeah, Erase. I don't even know where they got that shortened up version, but whatever. So either way, that's it, and I'll see you next time for more Sparda's World. Take care.